the Facebook group. Angela, if you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself, give us a little background. I think that will give us some time so that I can get the people over from Facebook onto Instagram.
Sounds like a plan. Hi, everyone. My name's Angela Perizes. I'm a registered dietitian. I've been a registered dietitian now for almost 3 years, and I've mostly been working in the field of home health with a focus on counseling, nutrition counseling, and education. A lot of the patients that I work with have either diabetes, chronic kidney disease, high blood pressure, um, binge eating, or Parkinson's disease. I also work with patients with Parkinson's. So that is what I do during my day job.
Great.
And I love cooking, and I love food. So I'm excited to talk about food with all of you today.
All right, perfect. So I told everyone to switch, hopefully. Hopefully we still get, and they can get, perfect. So guys, like I said earlier, the goal here is to give you guys a rundown of what we can do to mitigate any sort of issues that you might have in quarantine with your eating habits. Okay, we have a few questions already that people have been asking me, my clients have been asking me, and I wanted to address those. I wanted to address those first and give Angela the opportunity to answer those questions coming from a professional versus someone like myself that is just doesn't have the educational background, just basic reading, nutrition articles and whatnot. One of the first questions that we've gotten a lot actually is, here we go. So question number one says, I'm sitting at home. I've noticed that I'm having cravings of certain foods and I'm snacking more often. How can I limit that or mitigate that?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, that's a really big one. I mean, I've noticed as a dietitian, I've noticed that with myself too, sitting home, you're surrounded by food. And if we think about the current situation, what makes this difficult is you might have had a snacking habit before quarantine and the coronavirus. And now with being in the home all the time, it makes that habit even worse. So part of that being around your kitchen, being home, um, having this fear that there won't be enough food, so people do go out and buy, they shop more, uh,
Yep.
have more food in the house. In addition to that, just with any stress response, and this is a stressful time to be in, you're worried about your loved ones getting sick, you getting sick, what's going to happen, how long are we going to be in this state, or just living with loved ones. That could be a stressful situation, living with people. So stress does make us crave certain foods, and they usually tend to be the salty or sweet foods and the fatty foods. So what can we do about that? There are two solutions. There's a quick and a slow solution. The quick solution, they're pretty straightforward. So if you're craving something, your body's telling you it wants something, right? So you can make healthier swaps or healthier choices. So if you're craving something sweet, having a trail mix or a yogurt, having dried or fresh fruit instead of
Mm-hmm.
going for the candy or the cakes or the cookies. Um, those are a bit healthier options than the cakes and the cookies. Uh, the next thing, if you're craving something salty or crunchy, as you would in having chips like Doritos or Lay's or whatnot, is switching over to having nuts or seeds, popcorn, maybe fresh veggies dipped in ranch, things like that to get that savory satisfaction from your craving. But let's say you don't want to be snacking at all. Something that you can do is create a schedule. So this is especially
Yeah.
important when we're in the house. So typically people are supposed to be eating every 3 to 4 hours. Now each person has their own style of eating, and it is very important to pay attention to your hunger and fullness cues. And this is part of intuitive and mindful eating. But if you're really struggling with grazing and snacking throughout the day, even setting a timer that goes off every 3 to 4 hours, still asking yourself, am I really hungry right now? Can I eat, or should I wait another 30 minutes or an hour? But really scheduling the 3 to 4 hour chunks of time for your meals. And having a schedule with your meals. So knowing what you're going to prepare, knowing what meals you have around, what you can have for lunch, what you can have for dinner, so you're
Yep.
not scrambling last minute and reaching for that snack. The third thing that you could do is, and again, these are quick fixes. The third thing that you could do is don't buy the tempting foods. So in
Um,
the grocery
but
store, don't
but it's so much easier.
don't
Amazon delivers it all.
yeah, don't buy it. That's really the easiest is not having it in the kitchen,
Yeah.
especially not supposed to be going to the grocery store that often. So it's not like before coronavirus where, okay, I'm just gonna make a quick run to the store to get those chips that I'm craving. We really should not be doing that because it puts us at risk for getting coronavirus. So just don't buy it. Those are the quick fixes. Now, the slow fixes, these take time, but you should still be working on them. And this is more so going into mindfulness. If you're
Mhm.
craving foods, the question you want to ask yourself is, am I hungry? Especially in this time when you're stuck in your home. Am I hungry, or is it something else that's going on? So one of the exercises when you go to grab a food item is to ask yourself, A, am I hungry, or is it something else?
Mhm.
If it is something else, figuring out what that is. Oftentimes it's stress, it's boredom, it's getting antsy, it's something else that's going on. It could be anxiety. Anyone that's had previous, stress or anxiety before coronavirus, it might be even worse now. And
Mhm.
had any history of disordered eating, it's going to be worse now because you're constantly surrounded by food. So really ask
Yeah.
yourself, why am I wanting this food right now? Am I really hungry? So that's exercise number one, is answering that question. What is your why when it comes to food? And do you even like what you're eating? Or are you craving just that sweetness or saltiness?
Yeah.
The next practice, and this is part of mindfulness, is part of mindfulness is awareness. So the big key to and the importance of mindfulness is you become aware of your behaviors. You become aware of what you're doing and how you're feeling. So the basis of intuitive eating is your relationship with food. So developing a healthy relationship with food. And part of that starts with mindfulness in the sense of being aware of what your triggers are, being aware of hunger, of fullness, and how you respond to stress too.
Yep.
So to do that, you have to figure out what factors are making you hungry. For some people, it could be flavor, like I'm just craving that flavor. But typically it's things like food proximity, stress, the labeling of packaging, the portion sizes, maybe the people that you're around and their behavior might be having an impact on your behavior. So figuring out what are those things that are triggering you.
Yeah.
So,
Real quick, Angela, sorry
yeah,
to interrupt, but you said something that was very interesting. Food proximity.
yeah,
So I'm finding personally where being in the gym, I would have periods of 5 to 6 hours that I was in the gym, was nowhere near anything. So it kind of created a structure where I ate in the morning, I went to the gym, then I had lunch because I had a gap, and then I would go back to the gym and I would have dinner, right? It would just control it. But now I don't have that structure. And what's happening is most of my work is being done at the kitchen counter, and literally it's right there. So for the first week or so, I was constantly looking at food, and it was one of the big things because that's where my office was, the kitchen counter. So can you expand on that just a little bit on the proximity and how can you
yeah.
kind of create a better environment for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great point. So it depends too where you live. If you're living in an apartment, this is much harder than if you're living in
Mm,
a house. So if you are in a smaller space, putting the food away. So not having things out. Put it in the cabinet, in the fridge, in the refrigerator. Hide your food. The second thing is don't work in the kitchen. If you can't,
Yeah.
some people, if that's all they have, a countertop, that may be all they can do. But moving away from the kitchen to a table or a couch or somewhere that's not near the food, and really creating space between you and the food.
Yeah.
Another thing, I really like this technique. I forget her name, and I wish I could look it up, but I'm using my phone right now. There's this motivational speaker. You have this trigger of like of a negative thought or a behavior that you want to do, or urge to snack. You pause, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then do that other behavior that you want. So let's say you're trying to avoid binge eating and you want to do work instead. You want to be focused on your work. Allow yourself to have that thought. Having a thought of food is okay. It's going to come into your mind. That's okay. Have the thought and then say, no, Angela, or no, Nico, I need to focus on what I'm doing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm back on task. So that's a nice strategy. If you kind of hijack that thought of food, you want to interrupt that food process of, ooh, what's in the cupboard? Ooh, I can go for a snack right now. I have acknowledged the thought. I'm having food. Okay, I've had the thought of food. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's work time. And
Great.
ask yourself if you're hungry. You have that thought of food. Be like, okay, I'm thinking about food right now. Am I hungry? No, not really. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to go work.
Awesome.
Or walk or exercise. It doesn't have to be work. Clean. I'm going to go clean now, whatever it is.
Yep.
That's another way of creating mental distance. The food might be there, but in your mind, you're refocusing on a different behavior, a different task that you really wanted to work on instead of snacking.
Okay. Great. So one of the questions that, sorry, again, another question that came in that was 2 questions actually that kind of correlated with this is that because we're more sedentary, do you think that it's necessary for us to adjust calorie intake and focus on, what essentially, do we decrease calorie intake or do we keep it the same?
Yeah, that's a great question. It honestly depends how active you are. So if you're cleaning your house, if you're doing if people are following your workouts on a daily basis, or going out for a walk, you're still being physically active. If you think about it, oftentimes people are at a desk job for 8 hours or more, come back home, and then they're sitting again, maybe watching Netflix. So how much more are they sitting? It really depends on the person's lifestyle and what they're doing.
Yeah.
Some people might not be more sedentary being indoors than they previously were. I'm sure many are, but calories, if you're not exercising, if you're not moving as much as you used to, and you know that, and you're concerned about gaining weight, then yes, you would cut back on your calories. But part of that too, and this goes back to mindful eating, is if you're not expending as much energy and you have a good awareness of when you're hungry, when you're full, you should not be feeling more hungry when you're less active. So if you have this healthy response to hunger fullness, you should be feeling less hungry. And if you're not, there are always healthier snacks you can have, or you can still choose to snack, but keep in mind you're not being as active or burning those calories. So at the end of the day, it is a decision you have to make.
Yeah. Do you eat the chips? Do you not eat the chips? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, do you eat the chips while watching Netflix or not? That's also another decision.
No, the answer is no, because
Definitely.
mindfulness, right? You're not.
Well, they have Netflix parties. Don't you need the popcorn?
Eat the popcorn beforehand, get full, and then you're done. But no, that's a great point. Is not being distracted while you're eating, because you can't become aware and stay aware with your hunger and your fullness if you're watching Netflix or distracted by social media or what.
Yeah.
But something I did want to emphasize is snacking is a form, or eating, I should say, not so much snacking, is a form of coping. So part of this emotional eating or craving that is a coping mechanism. So my next slow tip is, so the first slow tip that I said was ask yourself, am I really hungry? If not, find out why. Ask yourself, why am I not, why am I craving this? But it's figuring out your coping mechanisms too. So if your coping mechanism is food, that is comforting. You're seeking comfort. You want
Mm-hmm.
comfort for something. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not bad to want cookies and then give yourself cookies. It's not bad to want a beverage that you're craving and is soothing. It becomes bad when it's your only coping mechanism.
Mm.
Okay, so if that's the only thing that you've got going for you, then you're going to have problems, because the problem is you're not addressing the real issues. You're not addressing why you need to be comforted. You're not addressing why you're stressed, why you're anxious, what else is going on in your life. So really putting an emphasis on other coping mechanisms, whether it's physical activity, talking to friends, reading, puzzling, whatever your thing is, having something as a backup. The second reason why eating is not the best coping mechanism is if you're getting feelings of guilt from what you're eating. So number one, if it's your only coping mechanism, that's not a good thing. And if it's making you feel guilty, because what's going to happen is you're going to want to restrict. And then the next thing you know,
Yep.
that's not going to last. So then you're going to be more likely to binge eat. And then you're
Yep.
going to feel guilt and shame again. And we're stuck indoors for who knows how long.
Yeah.
Vicious cycle. So keep in mind, if you really are creating something, allow yourself to have it. But where mindfulness comes in is you have to be aware of what you're doing. You are making a choice to eat that food. And if you're going to do it, don't feel guilt around it. And if you are feeling guilt, then you have to address why you're feeling guilty.
Okay.
And that's where mindfulness techniques come into play. So another mindfulness strategy is, I know a lot of people don't like this, but it's very useful, is journaling. So if some journal topics that are good are asking yourself, why am I eating? Is it physical hunger or some other sensation? How do I eat? Noticing your patterns of eating, and noticing time of the day that you want to eat. When are you hungry? When do you start feeling hunger? When do you crave snacks? And writing those things out. And then how does the food make you feel? Do you feel energized after that? Or do you feel really sluggish and not that great? So
Yeah.
part of the food of eating is learning this appreciation for food in your body, and you tend to naturally not want those foods that make you feel sluggish anymore, which tend to be the chips and the cookies.
Yeah. And just to reiterate that, it's journaling. A lot of times when people say it and hear it, they hear, I have to count calories, right? This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about, what are you feeling at the time? Write down those things that you can look back on so that you have a log, and then you'll see patterns.
Yep.
Over time, you'll see the patterns, and that's going to help you in the long run understand what you're actually feeling and how to disassociate from certain emotions, like you stated.
Exactly. And even if you are keeping so I wasn't even referring to food diary or food recall. This was specifically toward your emotions with food and hunger.
Yeah.
But what you can do as well is write down what you eat, and next to that, write down how you feel throughout the day. So you can see what foods work for your body, what foods do not. And then you can make a decision like, do I want to continue feeling this way?
Yep. Great. So, are there any more cues on that question? Should we look at the next question?
I mentioned this, whoever joined at my last healthy eating talk at your gym knows about this, but there's a really great strategy for mindfulness that builds the skill of awareness. And that's at your meal, when you're sitting down, using your five senses to describe your meal. So before you eat anything, sitting down, taking a few breaths, calming yourself before you eat. It's the best way to eat is when you're in a state of peace and calm. And then assessing the food with your senses. So looking at the food, describing what it looks like. Does it have a specific color, shape? What's the size of the food? Next, the smell. What does it smell like? Does it smell sweet, salty, sour? And then you want to taste the food. How does it taste in your mouth? Sometimes how it smells and how it tastes do not coincide, but using descriptive words can you even describe or state what spices, what seasonings, what ingredients are in the dish? So really taking your time with the food to describe it in your head is a great practice for building the skill of awareness, because it is a skill that can be worked on.
Yep. So before moving on, guys, as are aware, send us any questions that you have. Just put it in the questions box. There's a little box down there you can click on. You can ask a question, and then we'll try and get to it by the end of this. Also, let us know where you're coming from. Send us where you're at, and if there's anything else, any comments you want to make. So moving on to the next question that we had here, it's regarding supplementation and immune health. So it's kind of a two-part question, but the first part is, have you heard of taking any supplements that help to prevent COVID-19, and if that is true or not? The second part of the question would be, what can I do to boost my immune system in the general sense?
Yeah. So those are great questions. There's been some posts on social media and in the news about specific vitamins, including vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc, or even other things like antioxidants and nutraceuticals. They say might help with preventing viral infections. And it's really important to understand that the immune system is a very complex system, and supplementing is not going to prevent you from getting the virus. So there are vitamins and nutrients that are really important in immune health and for your immune system to function properly. But those are part of just day-to-day healthy eating. That's something you should be focusing on a daily basis, and supplementing only if you have a deficiency. So those nutrients include vitamin D, vitamin A, zinc is an important one, vitamin C, which has been in the news as well, your B vitamins, and then certain foods like things like garlic, you hear about that, or oregano oil. Some of the supplements out there are things like resveratrol or quercetin or things like that. But at the end of the day, supplementing with those are not going to prevent you from getting the coronavirus, and might not even have an impact on the duration of a viral infection or reducing the symptoms. Now, there are two exceptions. For vitamin C, there was a review, I believe in 2013, that looked at vitamin C in colds. The supplementation of vitamin C, it really does help with reducing the duration and severity of symptoms of the common cold if you're an athlete. So about 200 milligrams per day. And this is like, they were looking at like marathon runners and skiers and like more rigorous forms of physical activity than just basic exercise. Now, with the
Does physical activity count from going from the couch to the bag of chips and then back? Is that, I saw someone commenting on getting
well,
up to get the chips
if
to
you're
go
doing
back.
squats and lunges on your way there.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
But no. Now, for the average person, they did find that if you supplement with about 200 milligrams a day, or specifically if you're feeling like you're getting a cold, it might decrease the duration of a cold by like a little bit, but that's a maybe. So keep in mind, supplementing, there are side effects. Having high doses of vitamin C can cause digestive distress. So I wouldn't go out and start supplementing on high doses of vitamin C. And getting the RDA from vitamin C is very easy if you're eating fruits and vegetables. So
Yeah.
no need for supplementation. For zinc, there has been some research that it helps with the common cold, but the results showed that it would have to be at like 75 milligrams or more, and you'd have to take it like right upon getting sick, not like 3 days into a cold. And it could decrease the duration, but again, we don't know how the body would react with coronavirus. This is for the common cold. And with zinc, there are problems with that too. That greater than 75 milligrams exceeds the tolerable upper limit, which that number is 40 milligrams, and that's used to prevent toxicity. So if you have too much zinc in your diet, that could cause problems, including digestive issues as well, but also chronic issues like copper deficiency. And copper has
Wow.
very
Okay.
important roles in the body. So supplementing can cause problems, especially at high doses, and I would not recommend it. They do have over-the-counter lozenges with zinc in them, and a lot of the studies actually that's what they looked at was zinc lozenges. So if
Mm-hmm.
you feel like you're getting a cold, have a lozenge, but or any sickness, but I would not depend on those supplements for preventing coronavirus. The best thing to do for prevention is to not be around people. Wash your hands 20 seconds with soap and water and hand sanitizer. Um, the best tips for prevention.
So speaking of washing your hands and staying away from people, you touched on it earlier that we have to limit going to the grocery store. You know, we should try to limit that. What about, you know, anything that you've heard about actually buying groceries or delivery people, or can we, you know, get the virus from the packaging that's at the grocery store, or how
Yeah.
do we wash our fruits and vegetables appropriately, and can that mitigate any of this?
Yeah, so that has been coming up a lot. There was a video that was on YouTube from a medical doctor. I think he was a medical doctor from Michigan, showing how to sanitize and disinfect surfaces and your foods from the grocery store. And part of the pushback was he was washing his fruits and vegetables with soap and water, and you do not want to do that. You don't want to do that because fruits and vegetables are porous, and humans are not meant to ingest dish soap. It could cause digestive issues. So it's not recommended by the USDA that you do that. So don't wash your fruits and vegetables with soap and water. You do want to wash them with cold soap. And if you have one of those veggie cleaners, like the brushes, you can use that as well. And that's something you should be doing regardless, coronavirus or not. You should be washing your fruits and vegetables. And that's one way to prevent foodborne illness too, is taking care of your food in that way. But there are no reported cases so far of people getting sick from food. This isn't considered a foodborne illness. Of course, there's not a lot that's known about the coronavirus, and new things are coming out every day. But the primary mode of transmission is from person to person. You're going to get it from another human, not from eating fruits and vegetables. As far as the containers go, the recommendation is when you do go to the grocery store, go with a prepared list. Be in and out. Don't go there to hang out. The sooner you're out of there, the better. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
there, avoid picking up a bunch of things. Pick it up, put it in your cart, and go. That limits you touching a bunch of different surfaces. When you come back home, if you're really concerned, you can wipe down those plastic containers with a wipe, but like a Lysol wipe or something like that. But it's not really indicated to do that because it's not spread primarily in that way. So if you're really concerned, you can wipe down your stuff, and then once you're done doing that, wash your hands again with soap and water. As far as deliveries from out, again, the primary way you get coronavirus seems to be when you're around people. So if the concern is that, what if the delivery person has coronavirus and he was handling my food delivery, can I get it? Something that you can do if you're concerned about that is you can take the food out of the packaging, throw out the packaging, wash your hands again with soap and water. And if you're really concerned, you can heat up your food to 149 degrees for 3 minutes. But honestly, that's going above and beyond. And you're most likely going to be fine just eating the food that was delivered to you. But always wash your hands with soap and water before handling any food or before eating. Like I said before, it's usually not from things like packages that you get the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And I forgot to mention, you asked me another question about immune health. Really, the best
Oh
thing
yeah.
about immune health is lifestyle. You know, we're talking about stress. We're stuck inside. We're not seeing
Mm-hmm.
people like we usually do. Um, and it's hard. So finding ways to de-stress, exercise is a great way. Join Miko on YouTube and Instagram. Guys, that's one of the best ways to reduce stress hormones, which are terrible for your immune system, and to increase your white blood cells. So it really is great for immune health. Getting enough sleep. Get enough sleep, get quality sleep.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about coping mechanisms earlier and how to deal with stress. Take a nap in the middle of the day if that's what you need. So sleep is really important. And then following a healthy diet, eating fruits, vegetables, lean meats, things like that will also help.
Great. Thank you for that. Just to reiterate about the washing the fruits, again, is it just soap, just water? We're
Just water.
talking about cold water, right?
Cold water, and you can scrub them, and that's it.
Great. Awesome. So I'm gonna send it out to you guys. If you guys have any other questions, we'll answer those now. If you want to just go ahead and type them in comments. If not, we can say our goodbyes. But I'll give you guys a couple minutes if you want to type out any questions. I'll give you guys a rundown of my experience so far as you do that. So we've been inside for what? I closed the gym March 16th, I think the last time was. And my daily activity has decreased big time because I'm typically on my feet 13, 14, 15 hours doing various activities, whether it's coaching or not. But I found now that I have the time, have the time in a sense where I can actually structure meals. I can look at my diet and be more mindful of it because it's not a rushed thing. It's something where I can actually spend some time and use it as a way to de-stress. I found that eating and cooking can now be something that's a little bit less or more of a de-stressor. I exercise in the middle of the day. I try and do some sort of cardio, something that's going to get my heart going, and then some sort of strength training that I do on my K box. But then, that 30 minutes or so, or 45 minutes, depending on what I'm preparing, is part of that de-stressing. It's been helping personally, and I've been trying to cut back on my calorie intake too, because I would consume a lot for the activity that I was doing. I was working out 2 to 3 times a day typically, but now I'm doing once, maybe twice. So a lot of the things that, yeah.
Since you've reduced your time exercising and your physical activity, do you feel like your hunger has gone down, or it's the same as it was before when you had the gym open and exercising more?
So to be honest, I never really was mindful about my hunger cues prior to this because there wasn't time for it. You know what I mean? Like I was always distracted. I was always doing something. So when I was at work, I didn't even think about eating. When I got home, I would eat. Yeah. So it was quick, right? But now I was much more mindful of it. And I was realizing that I was eating when I wasn't hungry. And it took probably 10 days in quarantine to realize that was something that I was just doing to do as it's there, I'm going to eat it. Once I started to realize, okay, I need to be mindful of this because this could go either way. Since starting, I've actually, and this is something that my focus is, I've actually gone down 4 pounds since starting quarantine. That's because I've spent time in cooking meals that I'm being mindful of eating, spending time to actually look at the package and say, okay, this is the serving size. I'm going to try and stick to that serving size. In addition to like playing around with certain things, the intermittent fasting and just using different nutrition, just using different tools to try and mitigate any sort of poor eating habits.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things was working in the kitchen. That was a big problem.
Yeah.
I see.
Now you have time to cook more.
Yeah, exactly. I see a question here. It says, can we use UV light to disinfect? Have you heard of anything there, or do you have any thoughts on that?
I honestly am not sure. I'd have to look into that. I know they use UV light, not from like outside. Don't just put it on the windowsill.
Just hold it. You have to hold it for about 6 hours in front of the window.
Yeah, where are they getting the UV light is what I want to know from. What I want to know. I'm not sure. The best thing though for disinfection, really, it's at your fingertips. I mean, you can use any wipes, sprays, disinfectant sprays, alcohol solutions. For hand sanitizer, it should be greater than 60% alcohol. And soap and water. Soap and water is great.
Hmm.
The soap and water will get rid of that virus, especially if you wash your hands properly and long enough. So I'd have to look into the UV light, but I don't. The UV lamps for your plants.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
I was
Something I'm way out of my
adding
realm.
some UV lamps for growing plants indoors, but
I think so. We need that for like just to stay sane, to get some sort of some sunlight if you're not going outside on a daily basis. So guys, it seems like that's it for the questions. I really appreciate you taking the time out, Angela. Thank you for that. If you guys have any more questions, don't hesitate to send myself or Angela a message. She is also available to do private virtual nutrition consulting. So we can do that, and we can set that up for you. Again, just send myself or her a message, and we can schedule that, whatever works for both of you guys. Um, thank you again. Do you have anything else you want to add?
no, that's it. Thanks for all the great questions. And like Nico said, if you have any further questions or want to set up a telehealth appointment or consultation over video, feel free to message me or Nico, and we can set that up.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Yeah, great job. Great job. Thank you for the information. And we'll see you guys soon. If you guys have any other topics or anything else you guys want to discuss, or you want Angela to come back on and do another seminar for us, that just let me know and we'll set something up. We've got time, and we can do it in our living rooms.
I'd be glad to do this. Questions, another video.
Awesome. Great. Thanks again. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.